Narcissism. It's a very common thing that a lot of you ladies are coming across with these men that you are meeting, dating, or in relationships with. And anyone who's dealt with a narcissist knows it is not what you want in your life. It is a very unpleasant experience and it leads to so much more frustration, headache, heartache, you name it. So I feel it's important that we not just be aware that narcissism exists out there and that who are the men who fit this label, but also then how to avoid the narcissistic man. Because there are things you can do as a woman that will at least help you. Because the reality is nothing is 100%. You can do everything right and it's still, I'm not going to say it's impossible to still maybe overlook something because you're human and before you know it, you're very involved with a narcissist. But there's some things that if you do, it will increase your chances of not falling into that trap. All right. And I want you to avoid this issue altogether. So one of the biggest keys to avoid dating a narcissist is for you to learn the difference between how you feel about the man and how you feel about how the man treats you. Okay? Let me explain. So one of the common things that a narcissist may do is love bomb a woman. All right? Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with love bombing, it's essentially guy right off the bat, he's showering you with all this love, attention, trying to move things along very fast. He's going hard, foot on the pedal, no stopping, okay? And he's trying to push things along as quickly as possible because essentially he's trying to reel you in, get you fully attached essentially, before then he pulls the rug out from under you or turns the tables on you and shows his true colors. All right. Now, I have a video on love bombing, and I do want to say, though love bombing does exist and there are men engaging in it, I do not believe that it's always love bombing if the feelings are genuinely mutual. All right. Meaning, all right, there are some situations out there where a woman meets a man and yet he's moving fast, but she actually is feeling something towards him aside from how fast he's trying to move. Just maybe a deep connection there, a deeper she's feeling strongly for him just as he's feeling for her. He just may be more willing to embrace it. All right. So I just want to throw that in there that's an example of it's not actually love bombing because there are plenty of people who've met, got on, married very quickly and have stayed married for 10, 15, 20, whatever years because it was a real connection and it happened fast and they were willing to act on it fast. All right. But back to the love bombing. In this effort to reel you in and shower you with love, well, the narcissist is going to treat you very well and try to do everything right. And what happens is for a lot of women, they get blinded by how they're being treated. They get blinded by all the things that he's doing. They're not really paying attention to the fact that you don't really know this guy. And I know some people will say, well, you never really know someone. But I'm saying you haven't really gathered enough information yet. You don't have certain important questions answered yet. But the experience is feeling good, especially if you haven't gotten this kind of attention in a long time, especially, and this is a very common thing, if you feel like he is treating you better than anyone else has ever treated you. Because I've seen women end up with narcissistic men or just the wrong man simply on the strength of this is the best I've ever been treated, even though there's not a real connection there and you're not really into the man. So that's the thing. You got to ask yourself, is my desire of him based on the things that he's doing for me, or is it based on who he is as a man? If we took away all this special treatment, do you like him? If y'all had to sit in a room alone and all you could do is talk to each other, will you still enjoy his company? Would you still enjoy expressing yourself to him? Would you be able to be yourself with him? You see, you gotta go deeper to ensure you are falling for the man and not the experience. all right? Or not the fantasy of the situation. Because many times the narcissist is going to sell you that fantasy, tell you all the things you want to hear. And you're so caught up daydreaming in all the potential that you're seeing here that you get lost in the situation and you don't realize you are dealing with either a narcissistic man or simply a bad man. Now, I have to throw this in real quick. It's kind of off subject, but it connects to it. Because there's a lot of people getting scammed online by men. And I want you to be careful with this because you will have men. Some of them will impersonate me, impersonate other public figures, so on and so forth, reach out to these women and pretend to be in relationships with them. And they're kind of following the blueprint of, again, selling you a dream and trying to treat you a certain kind of way, but you're not really that woman who gets caught up in that is not one, making sure she understands who she's dealing with. In some situations, has never even seen the person or met them in person, all right? And I know there's a lot of situations out there where real love occurred with two people who didn't meet in person. But all I'm trying to convey here is you've got to be careful, all right? And you can't let the fantasy, the hype, the hope of the situation blind you. And you cannot let what he does for you cause you to forget who he is as a man and if you truly connect with him. All right, so now another huge key to avoid dating a narcissistic man is you need to communicate and ask all the questions you want to ask. So let me first start off by addressing the issue of a woman may say, well, you can ask these men all kinds of questions, but they can lie to you. You're right. This is very true. There are tons of men, especially if he's a narcissist, he has no problem lying. However, I always say, you make someone speak long enough and they're going to expose themselves. Even liars, it's hard to keep up a lie continuously. It's hard to keep a lie going deep into a conversation if you keep asking the right questions, because with every additional question, they have to think of an answer. And the liar, because they're so in the moment of trying to give you what they felt you want to hear previously, they may not have thought out how that would make sense with the next question that you ask. All right. And so when you ask that next question and their answer doesn't make any sense, and you see there's a disconnect or there's an inconsistency, this is starting to expose the individual. All right. So you have to be able to continuously ask questions. Now, there's a lot of women who, one of the big reasons why they don't ask questions or ask too many questions is because, well, you don't want to scare the man away and you don't want to make him uncomfortable, all these things, which I understand, but I always say you can't scare a man away who is serious about being with you. The only caveat is if you are interrogating this man, if you are coming with a negative energy, all right? If you are coming across in an unpleasant way, that's different. But if you are expressing yourself in a calm, loving, positive manner, no man who's serious about being with you is going to take issue with your questions. Because here's the thing you have to understand. The guy who really likes you, I always say, the man who truly likes you wants to bring you peace and clarity. The other men want to give you chaos and confusion. Okay? So the guy who's the narcissist, the guy who's not serious about you, they are not looking to give you the clarity that you need, because if they gave you the clarity that you need, it would expose them. So those are the type of guys that dance around the topic, that don't really want to have a discussion, all these different things. But the guy who's serious is not going to be run off by that. And if we even consider the situation where, well, there's some genuine guys who really like you, but they struggle with communication. Okay, fair enough, but you won't really be able to expose that issue unless you ask the questions and express how you feel. And if they're unwilling to do anything about fixing that issue, well, they're still not qualified to be in a relationship with you right now. So either way, that's not a reason to not open up and ask questions. So you got to be able to take that step in the process if you want to expose a narcissistic man. Now, some of you may be wondering what questions you should ask. I have videos on great questions to ask in the early stages of dating. You can check that out. But in general, don't overthink it. Just ask what you're thinking. Ask what you're processing or trying to have clarity about. Because the reality is this. I've coached thousands of women. And they're coming to me saying, well, he said this. What did he mean by that? And it's like, why didn't you ask him? Like, you got a ton of questions. You're just asking your friends. You're asking me. You're asking your pastor, your teacher, whoever, your counselor. But you're not asking that man. And it would make everything easier for you if you just ask that man. Now, for the narcissist who is so good that he can get past all those questions, listen, again, there's other ways you're going to be able to expose who he is as we continue to go down this list. But don't use that as an excuse not to engage in open dialogue. Now, I have to say one more thing before I move on to the next point. If you want honesty and openness, you have to give honesty and openness. I'm not saying some of you aren't honest and open and transparent. But again, as a coach, I've seen many situations where a woman is frustrated by a man's lack of transparency. But when we look at how she's been showing up, she hasn't been very transparent either. And you have to make sure you're playing your part. You are presenting the things that you want back in return. All right, in regards to things like that, transparency and openness. So as long as you do that, as long as you express yourself in a positive, loving, calm manner, that will help you in this regard. All right, so let's keep this going. Another big key to how you can avoid dating a narcissistic man is you have to pay attention to how he treats other people. So again, the narcissist is very focused on, if he's trying to get you, if he's trying to love bomb, whatever, to reel you in, yes, he can be on his best behavior as it pertains to you or as it pertains to whoever he's trying to get something from. Whatever is beneficial to the narcissist, he is going, or whoever is beneficial to him, he will be able to perform for that thing, okay? But when things are not beneficial to him, how does he show up? When he's dealing with random people on the street that can do nothing for him, how does he treat them? Many, if not damn near all, if not all, narcissists will show narcissistic traits in how they engage with other individuals, okay? And you have to understand, do not make the mistake of thinking, oh, well, he treats me well, so I'm not going to concern myself with how he treats others. No, if he treats others like that, so for example, if he's very verbally abusive, and I don't know why I'm thinking of this example, but let's just say when you guys go to a restaurant, waiter makes an honest mistake, and this man is going off on him, but in a very rude, mean manner, okay? And you may think, well, he's just upset about his food or whatever. But you have to understand, if he is capable of becoming verbally abusive to this stranger, what makes you think he's not capable of doing that to you? He clearly has that in him. So that just means it requires the right trigger for it to come out. And when you're with someone long enough, trust and believe, there's going to be all kinds of triggers you're going to hit just in the natural flow of life, okay? And so now, if they don't know how to conduct themselves or how to manage themselves in those moments, well, guess what? You're going to get all of that. And here's the kicker. You may get all of that times 10 because now they're more emotionally invested with you than they were with this other individual. So if they can get that upset, that nasty with someone else, yes, they are fully capable of getting that nasty and more with you. So you got to take inventory of that. You cannot ignore that, all right? But it's not just the people that he comes across randomly, family, friends, coworkers, whatever. Excuse me. Pay attention. And the reality is that you won't get the accurate story from him. So if you're relying on him to tell you how he is with other people, well, then don't expect him to paint a picture of him that's going to be negative. He's going to, if anything, he will make every negative interaction seem like it was the other person's fault, seem like it was a warranted thing on his end. You have to pay attention outside of that. All right. You have to be mindful of, all right, and I'm just giving this as an example because some people will date their coworker. Okay. And we're not getting into whether you should or not. Excuse me. But many people do. And for using that as an example, if you're hearing negative things about this man from everyone else, I'm not saying you take it and run with it. I do believe you can have a conversation with an individual to see what their side of the story is, to get a better understanding. But when there's a common narrative surrounding an individual, even if they say, well, it's not me, it's them, something's off there. Something they're not mindful of. So you gotta be aware of all these things when you can. Of course, that's a work example. That won't always apply to regular life, regular dating in most situations. But just pay very close attention. All right, so we got a few more to go. And another huge key to avoid dating a narcissistic man is for you to set very clear and healthy boundaries. All right. Narcissists are all about themselves and all about what they want to do and how they feel it should be done and all these things. Okay. And so when you can establish boundaries early on, you get to see if this is a man who can respect it and who can put aside how he may feel about a situation and respect how you feel about it. All right. Because the narcissist is going to have a habit of valuing more his perspective and how he feels while dismissing yours. Okay. And boundaries is one of those ways when he feels like, okay, well, no, it was okay for him to cross this boundary because of this. It was okay to cross this boundary because of that. Now, let me say this, because this was something I came across recently. I was counseling a couple, and there was an established boundary in the relationship. And it was a situation where the man felt like it was an emergency and therefore warranted him crossing the boundary to make sure things were properly taken care of. All right. And though the woman understood his intent was good. So this is not an example of a narcissist, but it is an example of how there are going to be some men who still have to learn how to properly navigate situations. All right. Now, to me, the difference is, again, this is why we don't evaluate narcissism, bad man, wrong man, whatever, simply off of one thing. You have to look at the overall picture. A narcissistic man is going to show red flags in multiple ways. It's not typically going to be in only one way or in only one situation. All right. It's going to show up in various ways. Whereas the good man who's still trying to learn or needs to improve in certain aspects of how to show up as a partner, he will tend to show a mistake maybe in a certain kind of way. So, for example, I know a husband who his struggle was being more compassionate. All right. He believed in tough love, right? That's the way he was raised. He thought that's what you have to be. He did not understand compassion. However, this man was a provider for his family. You know, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was showing up in all the ways, but he struggled in this way. So that's an example of, we don't take that and say, oh, he's a narcissist. No, he's a man that needs to learn how to be more compassionate and more understanding. So I just want to throw that out there because I don't want people to just take one thing and run with it. However, going back to setting the healthy and clear boundaries, that's important regardless. Whether you're trying to sniff out a narcissist or not, you need to establish healthy, clear boundaries. And if you're a woman who doesn't know what those boundaries should be, those are questions you have to ask yourself while you're single. Those things you have to have a really good understanding of. Ask yourself, okay, what was a problem for me in previous relationships? Or what are things that typically may happen in a relationship that I'm uncomfortable with or that I take issue with? All right. And you want to be aware of these things and not just wait for something to happen. Because unfortunately, people who don't establish, there's the quote that I use: a lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. All right. Sometimes intentional respect and sometimes a misunderstanding, right? But the point is, you don't establish anything. And unfortunately, a lot of women think the man should know better. But I'm telling you, as someone who has spoken to so many different people of so many different backgrounds, you cannot assume that people will understand what should be a boundary or not on their own. All right. So when you don't have that discussion beforehand, it raises the chances of something happening that's going to make you upset. And unfortunately, that one thing could, in some situations, derail the whole relationship. All right. So we want to avoid that by establishing these things early on. But yes, understand it will help you decipher when you're dealing with a narcissist or not. All right. So now, before we get to the next thing on this list, you know what? I'm not even going to mention that yet. Let's just get to the next thing on this list. I'm going to put a pin in what I was about to say. So the next thing you need to do, the next big key so that you can avoid dating a narcissistic man or end up in a relationship with a narcissistic man, is you have to learn how to trust your intuition. You know, I always say intuition is a blessing from God. And it's something that a woman should learn how to embrace and not run from. All right. And when you sit and you speak to women, I have yet to find a woman who can say her intuition was wrong. I've heard women say, I did not know if it was my fear or intuition. I've heard women, you know, say that, you know, they what they were hoping was wrong. But to say that their intuition, their gut, their spirit speaking to them was wrong, no, I haven't heard it. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. I'm just going to say it's extremely unlikely. Okay? Extremely. Because as a woman, you have this gift to sense things. You have a stronger inner voice or inner spirit. All right? And I'm just throwing this out there because it's just one of my theories. I'm not saying this is accurate or not. I think one of the reasons why women's intuition is so strong because women are our mothers. And as a mother, having that intuition and being able to be more aware with your kids and what's going on with them and how they're feeling, for those who have kids, is very powerful. And even if you don't have kids, as a woman in your family or in any environment, it heightens your ability to be more aware, more compassionate, more nurturing, because you'll understand when even someone's showing you something, you're seeing beyond that. All right. And that can be such a helpful, powerful thing for families, communities, relationships, you name it. So I believe, again, it's a blessing. And I want more women to walk in their intuition. And so I can give you all these signs and things to avoid and all this type of stuff. And there's a couple more things I need to mention to you. But intuition is it. Like that, it's just it. Now, for those of you who might have nodded your head when I said the struggle sometimes is understanding the difference between fear and intuition, let me help you with that a little bit. All right. Understand that fear is a product of what you have analyzed and logically deduced. Meaning, I always use the example, if you walked up to a bridge and the bridge has cracks in it, you know, it looks damaged, you're analyzing and that logic tells you this is dangerous. I'm too afraid to walk past this, what looks like a broken bridge, all right? You have to come to that conclusion based off the information you were presented. However, intuition is you can walk into a room. Everything is normal. Everything seems fine and pleasant. There is nothing logical that is saying something is wrong. But your spirit, your intuition is telling you, leave now. Something's wrong. You don't need to be here or something's going to happen. And you have to be willing to listen to it. That's the difference. Your intuition needs no logic. It needs no analyzation. It doesn't need any information. It just knows. Plain and simple. And for those of you who are spiritual believers, you know how they say things happen in the spirit before they happen in the physical, okay? Which is why I believe our spirit is always 10 steps ahead. Therefore, it knows what may be coming, which is why it can sense something's wrong here. You need to go because it is ahead of where we are. That's just another one of my theories. All right. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but I believe that's one of the big reasons why intuition spirit works the way that it does. So the key is, again, you learning how to tap into it, because one of the concerns I have with people, not just women, but people in general, because I think everyone has a level of intuition. I just think women have stronger intuition naturally in most cases, is that we wait for intuition to tap us on the shoulder and say something's wrong, but we don't learn how to tap on intuition's shoulder and say, hey, what's going on here? All right. So be mindful of that. I'm going to speak a little bit more on that in a couple more points, but just be mindful of that. We have to learn how to call upon our intuition rather than just waiting and hoping that it gives us fair warning. All right. So now, piggybacking off the intuition, another huge key to helping you avoid dating a narcissist is you have to heal from your past. All right. Now, let me start by first saying healing from your past will make it much easier for you to be in tune with your intuition. All right. Many of you don't trust yourselves, you don't trust your spirit because you're still hanging on to the disappointment and hurt from previous situations, which has now caused a disconnect between you and your spirit, you and your intuition. By healing from your past, you're removing that disconnect, you're removing that trauma that's blocking the way. All right. So that in itself will heighten your intuition and heighten your ability to embrace it. Now, here's also how healing plays into avoiding a narcissist. One of the common reasons why women or a woman ends up with a narcissist, especially when it's a pattern of constantly ending up with a narcissist, is because that woman has issues of codependency. Okay. And part of the reason, one of the reasons why a woman has a codependency issue is because of, again, she's been hurt, she's been disappointed in the past. And again, I'm just giving one example. There's many ways, many examples for this. But one example is because of that hurt and disappointment from past relationships, she seeks out a relationship where she has greater value there. All right. So essentially, this could be subconscious or consciously. She's seeking a man who essentially he needs her. All right. Because she brings more value. She can uplift him. She can stabilize him. And she feels that by being in that position, she has greater security here. He can't afford to lose her. He can't afford to do her wrong. It's a safer bet in her mind to get with this guy because she's too valuable to him versus a guy who has his stuff together. And she may feel, because again of the hurt and maybe a lower self-esteem, she'll feel more disposable there. She'll feel like this guy has way more options. I don't feel secure here because again, I am battling these deeper inner issues. But with this guy who has less going for him, it feels safer. The problem is that is a recipe for disaster because, well, guess what? Many narcissists are the guys who are looking to leech off of you. All right. If not all of them, they're looking to take. And that woman is going in feeling like giving is going to help her win. That giving is going to establish her position, but before she knows it, she's being drained by this man. And before she knows it, she doesn't realize that he doesn't pour nothing back into her. And in many cases, she set the stage for that because in the beginning, she wanted to be the one to say, I'm doing all this for this man. Now, again, this doesn't apply to every woman, but it does apply to many. And so all of that, and there's a lot more we can talk about with that kind of a situation, but it all stems from a lack of healing. All right. So the healing is going to allow a woman to see her true value. It's going to allow that woman to not settle. It's going to allow that woman to not be blinded by certain things. It's going to allow that woman to understand what she deserves and what she needs poured back into her. And when that man cannot meet that standard, he needs to go. She will not be looking for the safe pick. She'll be looking for the right pick. All right. And so that's why you have got to heal. Now, if you're having struggles with healing, check out my book, Love After Heartbreak. It gives you the exact steps I give my clients on how to heal, not just from a previous romantic relationship, but from everything you've been hurt from. Family, friends, relationships, you name it. All right. So go to loveafterheartbreak.com or click the link in the description or in the comment section. Get your copy today, and I'm telling you, it's going to change your life. All right. So last but not least, the other big keys for you to avoid dating a narcissistic man or dating a narcissist in general is you got to talk to God. All right. If you've been watching some of my videos before, you probably knew talking to God was going to be somewhere on this list. And let's bring it back to when I said we have to learn how to tap on the shoulder of intuition to say what's going on here. Well, that's the same thing as talking to God as far as I'm concerned. All right. It's going to the Spirit. It's going to God in prayer. It's not waiting for things to be presented to us, so to speak. It's being proactive and asking God, what should I do here? It's asking God, is this the person for me? Because here's the thing. Sometimes there are some of you who you're way too fixated on this guy being a potential narcissist versus is he right or wrong for you? Because even if he's not a narcissist, even if he's a genuinely good guy, but if he is not the right guy for you, it's going to end in disaster. So we don't always have to focus on the big fancy label of narcissism or whatever else. And let me just say real quick, I should have said this in the very beginning, but I do think society is overusing the label of narcissism and narcissist. I do think, again, we got to chill out with this, with over fascination, obsession with identifying narcissist. Listen, he's just not the right guy for you. At the end of the day, he's just not the right guy for you. That's what really matters the most, is you figuring that out. And so again, talking to God, learning how to get comfortable with going in prayer to seek out guidance is going to help you immensely. If you struggle with that, one, I always say fasting is an amazing way to gain more spiritual clarity and to connect with God, connect with the Spirit more. But also, way before I became Stephan Speaks, I had sat with a therapist. And one of the best things she told me, and I'm going to shout her out, Dr. Nikki Chung down in South Florida. One of the best things she told me was pray about everything. So there's nothing you can't pray about. Pray about everything. And I took that to heart, and that is one of my biggest principles I have carried with me for the rest of my life. And what it does is it really helps you hone the skill of going to God and hearing God, because we're not just waiting for the big moment to try to understand what God's trying to tell us. We're handling it in the little moments, and that builds up our confidence, our comfort, our awareness with hearing God's voice, right? That helps a lot. So pray about everything. Literally, listen, I'm just gonna give you this one quick example. It just makes me laugh because there's times where, like, I don't want to go to the gym. So I love the gym. The gym is like second home to me. But there are days where I just don't want to go. And literally, because I believe about praying about everything, if I feel conflicted about going, I will pray and be like, God, should I go to the gym? And I remember one time, few times really, I didn't want to go, but I said, let me pray. God said, go to the gym. Right? So I'm like, dang, all right, fine, I'm going to go to the gym. I go to the gym and end up, again, this happened multiple times, will get recognized by someone who needed like this advice. They were like, I can't believe I'm meeting you right now. I need your help so bad, and was able to give them advice that really helped them. It was like, okay, this is why you wanted me here. It wasn't just to lift some weights. So again, pray about everything, because you just never know. God works in the details, and you don't know how certain situations need to play out for God's process to take place, and therefore for God's blessings to get to the people or to you who need to receive them. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on if a man does these 3 things, it's time to cut them off. So it's one thing to not get the results you're looking for in the dating process, which can become frustrating to anyone. And depending on how long you've been dealing with it, it